Joe, do you want me to admit all?
Yeah, I think it's 7:30. I think we're ready. We've got everybody on. Everybody's seems to be working, so.
All right, sounds good.
Right? All right. I'd like to open the Birmingham City Commission April 2020 to order. Good evening, everyone. A lot keep changing day by day since our last meeting, and the ongoing spread of this national pandemic has forced us to modify our lives in many ways. With initial discussions beginning about opening up our country, our state, and our city, it's important to note that we will be returning to a new normal that will continue to limit our activities for some time. These changes may be temporary, but are necessary to ensuring our health is maintained. Tonight is our second virtual meeting under the state's new guidance. And for the benefit of tonight's meeting, I would again ask that we follow some basic parliamentary procedures. First, all speakers must be acknowledged by the mayor prior to speaking. Commissioner can do this by physically raising your hand in your screen. For members of the public, we ask that you use the raise hand feature within Zoom at the appropriate time. Second, we keep our comments succinct and to the point for the benefit of a productive meeting. Third, all voting will be done in the form of a roll call vote. Fourth, when a member of the public is recognized, the member of the public will be unmuted and will be asked to state his or her name and a community of residents before speaking. We will be conducting our public comments at the end of the meeting right after communications. As I stated earlier, there are some changes to our normal lives and we are all adjusting. I simply ask for your patience and cooperation as we handle the business of our city to ensure our beloved city can continue to thrive and prosper. The challenges before us are not over, but the responsible actions we are now taking will continue to speed up recovery. In addition to our efforts, I'm calling upon each of you to check in on your friends and family and to make a call, send a text, or reach out on social media to offer any assistance or support, especially to those with limited abilities or special needs. Now, it is our time to unite as a community. Thank you in advance for this, and I wish to also thank and acknowledge all those working tirelessly to ensure our safety, care for our sick, and develop a cure for our great nation. With that, please, I ask you, will you now please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance? To the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic
and
stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Boutros?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Here.
Commissioner Baller?
Here.
Commissioner Huff?
Here.
Commissioner Host?
Here.
Commissioner Nikita?
Here.
Commissioner Sherman?
Here.
Okay, go to proclamations, congratulatory resolutions, awards, appointments, resignations and confirmations, administration of oath, introduction of guests, and announcement. First item under announcement, earlier today, we had one item added to the agenda with the addition of a change order with the contractor requiring the North Old Woodward parking structure. This new item is item 6C on our amended agenda. All city remain closed to the public. All departments are accessible via phone and email. Payments may be dropped off using the convenient drop box located behind City Hall and accessible via the police department parking lot of Henrietta Street. The city has created a hotline to provide residents with information about city and county COVID-19 resources. Elderly, quarantined, and immunocompromised individuals are encouraged to use the hotline to request assistance with essential functions and obtaining necessary supplies. Please call 248-530-1805. And that is available Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We encourage everyone to sign up for our email distribution system to receive the latest information from the city. You can do this by going to our website and clicking on the box in the lower right corner of your screen to sign up. Lastly, in our announcement, the Baldwin Public Library is now offering 4 weekly virtual story times for children from birth to 2nd grade. Watch these story times online at www.baldwinlib.org/storytime. We move forward to our consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion and approved by a roll call vote. There will be no separate discussions of the items unless the commissioner or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered under the last item of new business. I ask any commissioner would like any item to be removed from our consent agenda. I don't see any hand raised. Am I missing anybody? No? Okay. We don't see any hand. Commissioner Nikita.
I'll move the consent agenda as posted.
Second.
Any from the public would like to remove any item on the agenda? Eric, do we see any? None? I see none. Okay. Motion by Commissioner Nikita, seconded by Commissioner Hoff. Will the clerk please take the roll call?
Commissioner Nikita,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoff,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Long. Aye. Commissioner Baller,
He's still muted. You have to unmute him to get his vote.
Yes. Yes.
got muted again. Commissioner Baller,
Yes.
Commissioner Host,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Boutros.
Yes. All right. Now we move to item 5, which is unfinished business. We have a public hearing to consider the proposed lot combination of 1680 South Bate Street and 1690. With that, I'd like to open the public hearing. And we have Jenna Ecker with us.
Yes, you do.
All right,
Okay,
it's yours.
as you know, this matter was considered on April 6th at your last meeting. At that time, there was extensive discussion about the proposed lot combination. You directed us to go and work with the applicants, the city attorney and myself, to come up with an agreement that would attach some conditions to the potential lot combination if you were to approve it, basically to control the size of the buildings that could be built on the site, and also to look at some of the uses and structures that could be built in addition to the buildings. So we did do that. I just wanted to note that Ms. Pierce and her attorney, Mr. Rassel, are both on this call too, if you wanted to hear from them. But we did work. I worked with city attorney, Tim Courier. He drafted the agreement that you see in the packet. Essentially, it does propose certain conditions that we talked about at the last meeting, specifically to limit the size of the lot coverage that can go on. It would start by saying that they have to use Bates Street as the front property line, because that's a corner lot. That's important so that we know the front will always be on Bates, the rear will be the opposite of that, and the sides will be on the side street and the interior. Also, demonstrating that they would develop with a minimum 15-foot interior side setback to the north. Right now, if that property were to be developed, it would have a 5-foot side setback. So this would bump it up to a 15-foot minimum side setback. Also imposing a condition that they would agree to no more than 20% lot coverage for any changes to the site now or in the future. Again, they're not proposing any changes to their existing house. They're just proposing to demolish the second house and leave it as their yard. What this does, the zoning ordinance currently allows 30% lot coverage. So this significantly reduces the size of area on the property that can be developed with either a house or garage or combination thereof. Also, the agreement states that any future additions or structures would also have to be built in accordance with the zoning ordinance, as it may be amended from time to time. With regards to the issue of the uses and structures that you talked about at the last meeting, pools, sheds, fire pits, hot tubs, that kind of thing. Those are already governed under the zoning ordinance, and they fall under something a little bit different than lot coverage. They fall under open space. Open space, there's a minimum open space amount required on every lot. That is in addition to the lot coverage requirements that just dictate the size of the footprints of the buildings. So in the Subdivision Control Act, section or chapter 102, section 84 specifically says that you can consider approving a lot combo with conditions that affect the size or placement of buildings or the buildable area on the lot. It doesn't provide any room to put a use in on or a restriction on the type of uses, such as pools, hot tubs, sport courts, etc. So it's the recommendation of the city attorney that we don't put anything in the agreement to that effect, but we do want to point out that all of those uses / structures will still be controlled by the minimum open space regulations contained in the zoning ordinance, and any future development to the property would be covered by that. We do have 2 illustrations that were in the packet that were provided. Eric, if you could, thank you. Illustration number 1 just gives you an idea so that you can visualize what's going on with regards to this agreement. So if you look at the site, the orangish brown color that you see on there is the existing footprint of the Pierce's house and their single family detached garage. The pink and the green areas show 2 different things. One, if these 2 lots were combined and they were allowed to max out the buildable area on the site, they could keep their existing home and garage and add on, including the green and all of the pink, and that would be what would be allowed today under 30% lot coverage and the minimum setbacks. So they could cover all of those colored areas in-house. One large house. Now, while that may be comparable to what's across the street, we understood from the discussion at the last meeting that this was the concern, both of the neighbors and the commission, that you didn't want to see a building go up that was this large and would get this close to the neighbor to the north. So with the restrictions that are proposed in the agreement, should you decide to approve the lot combination, it would scale back that large footprint and take away the pink area, and the only part they would be able to develop would be the brown area, brownish orange area that is what's already there now, plus the green area if they plan to do an addition or the next owner plan to do an addition. It would basically remove all of that pink area and render that not being capable of built on. So that takes the building envelope size down from 4,124 square feet down to 2,749 square feet. So it's quite a significant reduction in the footprint. Again, I want to point out that they have no plans to build an addition at this point. I just wanted to show you, if they decided to do something, what it would mean with these restrictions. You can see that the setback would also go from what the side setback is only required to be 5 feet, but there's also a requirement that it be a certain distance from the house to the north as well. So if they built it, apply according to all of the zoning ordinance with a full-scale addition without any agreement in effect with conditions, they could be 12.9 feet off the property line. The agreement stipulates that they would actually have to move it back, even though it's a minimum 15-foot side setback. Because of the restrictions on the size of the building envelope, they would actually become a 25-foot setback. So you can see, not only does the buildable area shrink quite a bit, but the side setback to that property to the north increases substantially. On the next page, we have scenario 2, which is if the lot were to be developed separately. So if you decide not to approve the lot combination, this scenario shows you what would happen if those two lots remained separate. They remained individual lots. Pierces would remain with their house on the corner and their detached garage, and then the house that's on the property to the north that they have purchased could be torn down and a new structure and detached garage could be built. This is not to tell you exactly what the footprint would be, but this is to tell you the exact size of the footprint. So of course somebody could make a longer and narrower house, etc. But this just gives you an idea. So this makes it 5 feet off the property line if someone were to develop this, if the lots are not combined and there's no approval.
Can I see how many people are on it? Oh, there's 27 participants.
I'm sorry? Okay, must have got some feedback. Sorry. So this shows you what they could do. They could also do an attached garage, which would change the numbers a little bit, but this gives you a ballpark idea that if the lots remain separate and another house is developed, it'll be much closer to the property line to the north, and of course, much larger in terms of the square footage that you would get on between the two properties in terms of lot coverage. So those are the conditions that we put in the agreement. The Pierces have looked over the agreement. They have actually signed the agreement, so they are in agreement with it. If you have any questions for them or their attorney or myself, I'd be happy to answer them. I hope that this assists in clarifying. I know it gets a little confusing with all of the different rules and regulations that apply, but I guess just to summarize, if you decide to combine the lots, adding these conditions significantly reduces the size of the footprint and increases the side setback.
Thank you, Jenna, for the presentation. And I just like, before we get into discussion, I see some hand raised already. But Mr. Courier, if you don't mind, for the clarity of further discussion, and we have also an attorney representing the applicant, but the question to you, could you please just elaborate on the Chapter 102, Section 84 of the City Code and the issues that arise with regarding to accessory structure, regulating the accessory structures and uses?
They're allowed to have an accessory structure. It's part of their lot coverage. But the types of uses they're allowed is already governed by the zoning ordinance. And to restrict the uses, they would create a situation where this would be the only residential lot in the city. Did not have the same use as every other residential lot in the city, which would require a zoning change, which would get into a number of ordinance changes, which I don't think are they're not contemplated by the subdivision ordinance, and certainly would take a much longer process.
Appreciate it.
And it creates a problem that if the Pierces don't agree, and we're taking away rights they already have under the zoning ordinance, you get a lot combination. Are you facing some sort of regulatory taking that could expose you to some sort of liability? Right now, the Pierces agreed to everything that we've put together, so that would not happen.
Thank you, Mr. Courier, for the clarification. And now I'll bring it back to the commission for any questions for Jenna or the applicant. Commissioner Host, go ahead.
This would be probably for Tim, because I think he's been with the city longer than you, Jana. I mean, has this ever happened? I mean, I don't know how that came out. It wasn't meant that way. Which is, in the history that we know of, has there ever been a lot combination that the commission has allowed to go through with all these caveats?
Janet, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have one over on Frank? The triple lot combination? Or was that prior to the change in the ordinance?
It was definitely prior to the change in the ordinance. In fact, I think it may have been that one that prompted the change in the ordinance. So I'm not sure if there was an agreement in place. I don't think there was, because I don't think they needed it. They could just simply combine those three, and that's what started all of these zoning amendments.
I think that is my recollection as well, is that because it was such a large house on the footprint compared to everybody else in the area, there was some desire to control the way it appeared to other houses in the neighborhood, which led to the subdivision change, which could be tailored to each individual neighborhood and lot. I don't recall any other agreement, Mr. Rose, because this is a relatively new ordinance in the last few years.
Commissioner Hoff, go ahead.
I have a couple of questions for Jana about the setbacks. You stated that the current minimum required is 5 feet. I thought it was 14 feet. Is that between structures? A side setback?
There's two separate requirements with regard to setback. One is the simple side setback, which says that no side setback can be less than 5 feet. Then there's another restriction in the zoning ordinance that deals with distance between primary structures. So the house on one lot and the house on the other lot. And that has to be 14 feet. So if you have a driveway on one side, for instance, you're going to have 9 feet there right off the bat, and then your 5 would be on the other side. But they're related, but they're two separate requirements. If the lot is combined, then the distance between structures requirement goes up because it's related to the lot width.
But is that 14 feet a combination of 2 side setbacks, or is that just one between structures?
It's a separate rule for the distance between primary structures.
14 feet?
Yes.
Okay. And then also I want to ask about the rear setback. The rear setback, is that... it says the applicant has also proposed to maintain the rear setback of 64.60 feet. Now, is that from the primary structure? It's not, because they have a 3-car garage behind their house.
Yes, that's from the primary structure, not the accessory structure, which is a detached garage.
Okay, so that's from the primary structure.
Yes.
What if they... Well, I don't know if they could do it there. I'm thinking about if they wanted to attach a garage to the primary structure.
Well, if you're talking about the Pierces, they would have different requirements if they decided to tear down their detached garage and make it into an attached garage. They would only be required under the ordinance to have a 30-foot setback from the rear of an attached garage.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Right. Any other questions for Jenna or
I have one.
Go ahead.
One more. This lot combination meets all of the requirements except one. And that one, would you please explain? All residential lots formed as a result of a combination shall be a maximum area of no more than twice the average lot area of all lots in the same zone district within 300 feet on the same street.
That's correct. But they do meet that requirement, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, they do.
Well, according to our materials, the applicant is proposing a combined lot area of 13,750 square feet. Accordingly, the proposal does not meet this requirement.
Which subsection are you referring to?
Number 3. in your memo of April 15th.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was looking at the wrong one. Okay. That's correct. So they're slightly over. Yes, because if you look at the scenario that's up on the screen right now, you can see that dotted line that's in between the pink shaded area and the house to the north.
Yes.
That dotted line is the original platted lot. So at some point when the person that owned that second lot must have purchased some of the platted lot to the north and added it to their lot. So if the two lots, the corner lot and the next one, had been original platted lots, then they would not exceed double the size of the average lot width. But because that second lot had purchased a little bit of the next lot to the north at some point, that's what bumps it over.
Okay, thank you.
I have a couple questions.
Commissioner Baller, go ahead.
Yeah. When we started down this road, we did it because time was of the essence. Has the COVID pandemic had any effect on anybody's timing here? That's one question. I'm not sure who can answer that.
I'll take a shot at it.
Okay.
Depends what the governor does by the end of the week. If the restrictions on residential lot construction are lifted, timing will still be of the essence. If they're not, we have to wait till that order is lifted for that to continue.
Correct.
So unknown. Question number 2, has anybody done a calculation of the taxes that would be a taxable value of 2 lots versus 1? Well, that's pretty much yes or no, because I'm guessing it's no.
I have not.
I have the applicant's hand. Ms. Pierce, would you like to respond to that?
Yes, thank you. We did reach out to Teresa Bozier at Oakland County Equalization to understand the tax implications of lot combination. And it was our understanding that we will be taxed on the patio because it will be concrete, the sports court foundation, which is also concrete. And then if we put a concrete pad underneath the hot tub, all of those will bring additional taxes. And when we looked at what the previous owner had paid in taxes, he had owned that property for about 20 years. And the price that he paid initially when he bought the property was low, very low, even at the time 20 years ago. So the taxes that we would be paying, it would represent just, and she was very cautious to say this is an estimate, this is a ballpark from Teresa, but she said it would be about a 5% reduction. So I think the taxes will be in the neighborhood for the combined lot of around $16,000 a year. And right now we're paying about 11. So our taxes will certainly increase, and it will be more than what the previous owner was paying. Or not more, I'm sorry, just around, and a little bit less than what the previous owner was paying, even without the house.
Fair enough. My guess is that if somebody built a house similar to yours, if this was not permitted, and somebody built a house on the lot next to yours, similar to yours, they would pay taxes roughly similar to what you're paying today. We're doing this because time was of the essence, not because we thought it was a great idea. Are we working on a plan going forward so that we don't have to do this again? I think as I recall, we had expressed a desire to allow someone who owns a home on one lot to use the lot next door without combining it for recreational use, let's say. But we can't do that right now. So that was, again, as I recall, anyone feel free to throw in and correct me, but that was kind of what we wanted to do. Are we moving toward that?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead, Mr. Valentine.
Yeah, I know there's a conversation that occurred previously. Let's adjust our volume here. Okay, let's try this again. At the last meeting, we had some conversations.
Reverb.
Yes. You want to turn yours down? There. Yeah. Let's try this again. We had some conversation in regards to trying to find a one-size-fits-all approach to this issue going forward. At that time, council had advised that these issues really need to be handled on a case-by-case situation, given the uniqueness with each circumstance. And Mr. Courier, if you want to just elaborate on that prior conversation for the benefit of the question that's been posed.
What we did is we did take a casual look at some of the other side lots that we have in the community. There's one over in Arlington that is strictly a grass area that I think the residents use primarily for entertaining. Occasionally there's a tent on it. There's one on Corton Road next to Springdale Golf Course. That lot that's right there with the culvert is actually part of Birmingham. That's the partial lot. The other rest of the lot where the structure is Brookdale and Corton is in the township. There's one on Maple that is just basically a vacant side lot with a wrought iron fence that has, I think, a trampoline, an above ground pool, and a parked car. We have found another one on Oak. There is a swimming pool that straddles the two lots, very well landscaped. It's between Corton School and Corton Lake. It's on the north side. I don't remember the north-south street offhand. But we have other examples of this throughout the community. And they have been done in accordance with the existing zoning ordinances, which allow a number of different uses. But most of the time, these uses are somewhat restricted by the lot coverage and open space requirements that are imposed on lots. The smaller the lot, for example, two 40-foot lots being combined does not leave a lot of percentage left for a whole lot of open space uses. The lot coverage takes up quite a bit, and that reduces, and the lot coverage does take up some of the open space area too as well, so if I understand it correctly. So we did have that discussion, and the concern about getting into the individual uses is if you start taking away uses of this one lot, what's one combined lot in this neighborhood, they've been singled out to have less rights than anybody else in the entire city. And that creates, I think, some constitutional issues, is that if they agreed to this, that's one thing. If they don't agree to it, are you running into the takings issue that you've taken their property without due process of law and they're entitled to just compensation? So it has to be across the board, the zoning ordinance that affects everybody. Then everybody who has these uses is going to be pre-existing non-conforming. So it does create some it does create some difficulties for us going forward, trying to change the whole ordinance with respect to everybody else's uses that are already in place.
And my last question, thank you. My last question is this agreement bulletproof? Is there anything in here that any of the three attorneys on our side, I include you, Janet, see as a potential weakness that could be challenged in 10, 20, 50 years?
Well, as one of the attorneys, I would say it's difficult to say all agreements are bulletproof, but as far as this one goes, at this particular time, it's about as good as you're going to get. Right now, it fits the existing zoning ordinance. The parties have agreed to the limitations regarding the lot coverage issues so that you have concurrence in doing that. Their ability to take a takings claim seems to be almost eliminated. I think Mr. Rassel could comment on that as well. If something comes up in the future and they wish to apply to the city to do something different, it's still subject to city approval. That's part of the agreement. They just don't have free rein to do what they want unless it's already in the existing zoning ordinance or a zoning ordinance that may be changed in the future that allows them to do it. But that's something the zoning ordinance changes under your control. If they have some future wish to change the agreement they have, it doesn't require the city commission's concurrence. They can do nothing unilaterally.
Likewise, the city can do nothing unilaterally after this.
Well, the only thing you do unilaterally, to the extent that you are enacting the zoning ordinance, may affect them, but it doesn't affect existing rights to take advantage of them.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Right. Commissioner Hoff?
But along those same lines, what effect does this have on the future on other people who see this approval and now decide that they want to do the same thing? They want to combine lots. May not be for a sports area. It may be for a larger house, a very large. So how do we handle that? By approving this, what does this set us up for the future?
Well, the lot combinations all have to be approved by the city commission, period. They're not automatic. So if they want to have a lot combination, they have to have your approval. Now, we have circumstances in the city where we had a lot combination where there was a house that straddled the property line a few years ago. They tried to sell off both lots, and he couldn't do it until the demolition of the existing house occurred, because you couldn't have a lot straddling the property line and sell them separate lots. We've also had people that bought the lot next door who decided not to combine them and to use it just to build another structure, in accordance with the zoning ordinances and building codes, which they're permitted to do. And that has happened on a number of occasions around the city as well.
All right. Any other question from the commissioners to the applicant or to Jenna or to our city attorney? I see none. I will take it to the public before I close the public hearing. Do I see any public? Let me scroll down just to make sure. I don't see any. Eric, you don't see any, right? Okay. I will.
I don't see any digital.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission. Entertain a motion. Any discussion? Oh. I lost my screen.
Oh, I have a public hand raised.
You do. All right.
I do. D Bloom 4. I'm going to lower their hand and unmute them.
Hi, this is David Bloom. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mr. Bloom. We can all hear you.
Hi, nice to see you in City Hall, Mr. Mayor. My concern is that this really isn't something that the city ought to be approving. I can understand the reason why the owners want to do this. If this is going to go through, I think it's going to, first of all, the city has talked about trying to have more affordability of housing, and this reduces the affordability of housing in Birmingham. It takes away a property from our housing stock. So I think that if it does go forward, that the occupants should actually have to pay taxes on 2 fully developed lots, so the city isn't financially disadvantaged from approving this. And aside from that, I just don't think it's good for the neighborhood to be combining lots like this. Thank you.
We appreciate your comment, David Bloom. All right. Back to the commission. Any other public comment? As I missed, we closed the public hearing. We don't have a motion yet, but I don't see any public. All right.
Ms. Pierce, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Thank you. I thank you all again so much for your time and going over our request, and thank you especially Jana and Mr. Courier. I know this is the 3rd time tonight that we've brought this topic in front of you, and we sincerely appreciate it. We're eager to get our backyard set up and get out there playing with the kids. And just to remind the commission, we do have strong support from all of our neighbors for our proposal. We provided 25 letters of support, and the only concern that was brought forward was with regard to the potential of what a future homeowner might do in terms of building on something outsized, which brought us to working with Jana, Mr. Courier, and Mr. Rassel, and we believe that the agreement that was presented strongly addresses those concerns, to the point that anything that's going to be put on this property 20, 30, 50 years from now, it will be capped such that it won't be the largest thing in the neighborhood. I have a list of addresses here I've talked through with Jana, including the home across the street at 1515 Pierce, 1555 Henrietta, 1735 Henrietta, 1552 Henrietta, 1553 South Bay Bates and 1695 South Bates across the street that are all in generally the same size as what we would be limited to with this agreement. So we really think it addresses the concern that something would be built here in the future that would be out of character. We don't think that would happen. And we've been happy to agree to this because it's not our intention to build a large house on this property, as we've said. Also, just so that it's clear for the commission, we're very eager to get this yard, especially with everything going on right now. You know, we have the narrowest lot on the west side of Bates from 14 Mile all the way up through Birmingham. And up until now, a lot of our yard has been that front yard and that public sidewalk. And right now, the public sidewalk is feeling very public. We're eager to get a private backyard for our family so that we can have a safe place to play away from not only the street, which was our primary concern before, but also just a safe place to play that's private. We do have the strong support of our neighbors, and we feel that we've addressed, we're hopeful that you agree that we've addressed the concerns. So I just want to say thank you again. And I know Mr. Rassel is also here on the call. So if there's any other questions, please feel free to ask. And thank you so much again for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Spears. Thanks for all your effort.
Thank you.
Been working hard on this, and I want to hear from the commissioner if somebody can entertain a motion or any further discussion. Commissioner Nikita.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I made the comment last time we talked about this that our current lot combination ordinance is not, in my mind, and I think it's been illustrated by way of previous discussions, that it's not the best ordinance, and I think it needs work. And I think that we have to go beyond the idea of having 6 or 7, can't remember how much, I think it's 7 items that are checked off, and that if they're checked off effectively, we've approved the lot coverage or the lot combination. And I think that it puts the commission in a difficult position to, surely we ultimately have the ability to vary that, because even though those items may be checked off as conforming, it puts the commission in a difficult position if we say no and those items are checked off. So it isn't directly a rubber stamp, but it's effectively a rubber stamp in my opinion. And I don't think that ordinance is very strong. So I think this ordinance of lot combination, the way it exists, needs to be addressed and needs to be revised and needs to be strengthened. And I think it needs to include things like the context of the neighborhood and some other issues that are broader and more directed to enhancing the particular neighborhood where these lot combinations will be taking place. So I think that we have some room to go in terms of our existing ordinance. That said, that's in place. This particular combination has addressed many of the issues that are in our current ordinance. And then we went beyond that to look at this alternative issue of addressing some of these subtleties of building on the site without building and potentially guiding it as if it's a SLUP, which I think has validity as a more involved way of dealing with this lot combination with controls that we think are in the best benefit of the neighborhood. So in my mind, this isn't the right answer completely. The current ordinance isn't the right answer completely, but we still are we're seeking the right answer, which means the ordinance needs to be revised. In the meantime, we're faced with addressing this in the best way possible. I think that staff and city attorney and the Pierce family have all looked at this carefully. And I think at the moment, this looks like, I think, a good solution for the circumstance that we're currently in. So I do support as I see it, I support the suggested resolution, and I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion to move the resolution approving an agreement between the city and Mr. and Mrs. Pierce to approve the lot combination of 1680, 1698 South Bates with conditions to limit the size and placement of future buildings.
I'll second it.
And seconded by Commissioner Sherman.
Mr. Mayor, if I could just finish one point, please.
Sure, I will open it to discussion right now. We have a motion and seconded, but go ahead, Commissioner Nikita, please,
Yeah,
on the motion.
On the comment that I made, I just think that this is a just to finish my point. I wanted to sneak the resolution in there as part of my discussion. But anyway, the point, the fundamental end of the point is really that I think that we need to work on the lot combination ordinance, and I would support this stopgap, if you will, or current situation, because I think the existing ordinance needs work. We don't have an end ordinance. It may be many months or even longer before we could get an ordinance. In the meantime, this addresses a number of the issues from the city's perspective, from the residents' perspective, and I think we can move on. But I don't think it sets a precedent that we can't revise, and I think it sets us up for working, I hope, aggressively as much as possible to create a better lot combination ordinance that's actually aligned with our master plan as well. So with that, I'll summarize my point.
Thank you. Any other comments from the commission on the motion? Please scroll up. I don't see any hands. Did I miss anybody? No?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoff, go ahead, please.
Well, I have concerns, not for the Pierces. I think what they want to do is very appropriate, and I would like them to be able to do what they can. But I agree with Commissioner Nikita that this should be an ordinance revision. Because by doing this for one individual, I think we're opening up the door to other lot combinations that they may be different, and I understand that the commission does have the ability to make conditions, but we don't want to be faced with this every time, and there are going to be different conditions. People are going to come up with ideas that we haven't thought of right here and now. So I have some concerns about it. I'm moving forward on this because I think it opens up the door to the commission coming up with conditions in different situations. Whereas if we had a standard where we revised the ordinance and we had a standard, which would also apply to the Pierces. They may have to wait a little while, but they may get what they want. So I'm really on the fence right now. I want you to have what you need because I think it's very appropriate to increase the sports area and the patio. I think that's very appropriate. But I'm concerned about the future and what this does in future requirements of lot combinations. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hobb. Do I see any other hands? Any comment on the motion? Commissioner Baller, go ahead.
Yes, I will third the desire to see the ordinance improved. And I hope a fourth commissioner will pipe in and likewise express support for revising the ordinance so we don't have to go through this again. And like Commissioner Hoff, I'm ambivalent about it. But I'm gonna go with Commissioner Nikita and support it, and so that's where I stand.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Baller. Mayor Pro Tem Long.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am also going to reluctantly support this motion. It's my preference, as I stated, I think previously, that we look at revising an ordinance that would allow a property owner to have accessory uses on an adjacent lot that they already own without forcing a lot combination. I'm not sure that lot combinations are anything we want to encourage in the community. I think that separate platted lots are more likely to someday have separate structures and more housing of smaller size than lot combinations, which tend to stay that way and allow larger uses. This agreement is certainly shows that the city is trying to react flexibly to the Pierce's needs and desires. The fact that the neighbors support it strongly is certainly helpful. but it's, it's not the best solution for anybody at this point.
All right. Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Long. Do I see any other hands from the commissioners?
Commissioner Host had his hand up before Mayor Pro Tem Long.
Yeah.
I apologize. Commissioner Host, you go ahead.
I will go along with Commissioner Nikita and Commissioner Baller and the other commissioners. Yes, obviously we have ordinance problems, but in Mayor Pro Tem's remark about it shows that the city is flexible. No, you know what? I think it shows that this commission is flexible. We haven't had time to address these ordinance problems, and yet here we have something that apparently is welcomed by the neighborhood as well as gives the Pierces their desired result. And this is called customer friendly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Host. Commissioner Sherman, go ahead.
I want to remind everyone why we have this ordinance the way we do, and it's a result of a number of properties that were purchased and large houses were put up. And the whole idea here was to make sure that that didn't happen. Our ordinance, when we put it in, was designed for a very specific purpose. We're now seeing that it doesn't quite meet all of the purposes that we need. So now we can go back and clean it up. But in the meantime, this agreement does take care of that. It solves the problem that the original ordinance addressed, and it provides a flexibility. So I have no issue supporting this, and I think we're ready for a vote.
Awesome. Before we go on the vote, I would like to ask the public if they have any comment on the motion itself. I don't see any hands. Right, sorry, it takes me time. I have to scroll up and down to make sure. Before I call the vote, Mr. Spears, I again want to take the time and thank you for being persistent. As many commissioners stated earlier, we are here to help any person in the community that come in front of us. It was a tough decision for us, as this is a unique situation you brought in front of us. But I hope that, like stated earlier, from this unique circumstance, maybe we can enhance things in our city and how we do future business. But I'm very comfortable supporting your request here, as it's very reasonable. You had followed every directions from the city. We wanted you to create a beautiful backyard and create a safe atmosphere for your kids. We wish you best of luck. With that, I would like the clerk, please, to call the roll.
Okay. Commissioner Nikita.
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman.
Yes.
Commissioner Baller.
Yes.
Commissioner Huff.
Yes.
Commissioner Host.
Yes.
Mayor Long.
Yes.
Mayor Boutros.
Yes. All right. Congratulations, Spears. We have a good evening.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone.
Take care.
Thank you.
Now we go under our new business. And the first item on our new business is a resolution directing the EM Bistro application to the planning board for full site plan and design review and special land use permit review. And we have, is it Jenna?
Yes, it is.
Awesome.
As you know, every year on October the 1st, we accept bistro applications for anybody that's looking to open a bistro for the coming year. In October of 2019, we did not have any applications. As you know, the city commission set up a policy in 2011 that if there were no applicants in October, there would be a secondary application period in the spring or April 1st. We did receive one application, and that is from EM at 470 North Old Woodward, and that's the Bon Giovanni's, and they are both here in the public here, ready to comment on this. As you remember, We basically, for this initial screening application, they submit no more than 5 pages of information on their proposed restaurant, what the atmosphere is going to be like, what the food is going to be like, what their experience is, where it's going to be, etc. And they have 5 minutes to do a presentation before you so that you may choose from the selected or from the people that have submitted applications. At this point, they're the only ones, but so that you can have a chance to see and hear what they're proposing and decide whether to send it on to the planning board for a full site plan and special land use permit review. 470 North Old Woodward is the space immediately south of Market North, right there south of it. And so they are here to present. The City Commission can approve up to 2 bistros per year. This would be the first one that would be considered for 2020 should you decide to move it forward. That's not an approval, of course, but a start of the larger process that would then go to the planning board and then come back to you for final approval under a slub.
Thank you, Jenna. Just a little correction. It's north of the South Market, the building north of it. South Market is south of the building, correct?
I believe the Market North is immediately north of this space.
No, can't be. Market North is at the corner. It's the last building of going south on Old Woodward. City,
correct.
Right? Yeah, so the building, the proposed building address is really the building adjacent to North Old Woodward, which is south of, oh, you're right, I apologize, south of it, correct. I gotta get my south and north straight here. South, yes, it is correct. Go ahead. Any questions from the commissioner to Jenna? We have the applicant with us too, Jenna?
Yes, we do. We have Mr. and Mrs. Bongiovanni.
Awesome. Is the applicant want to say something before I open it to the commissioner? Maybe that will be helpful, and tell us a story. Sure. And please, hey Joe, please say your name and tell us your story. As I read it and enjoyed it a little bit, but could you please share it and tell us your concept?
Well, thank you so much. Certainly, I'm Joe Bongiovanni. My address is 583 North Old Woodward.
Joe, we can't hear you well. Joe, can you fix your equipment somehow?
Sure.
Yeah, reverb.
Can you hear me now?
Absolutely. I think that's better. Don't use the
Very nice.
Go ahead, please repeat your name for the records and move forward with the concept and the presentation, please.
Sure. I'm Joe Bongiovanni. I live at 583 North Old Woodward in Birmingham here. My wife's on the call as well, and we're really proud with our idea that we're putting forth today in front of the commission again. It's been a long time since we've been in front of the commission with respect to a liquor license application and a bistro application in this case. And we do it with tremendous pride and good feelings. It's impossible to start this discussion without talking about Market North End and the time that we've spent on this in the area and working towards our guests and the people that we work with on a daily basis. And Kristen and I a long time ago were at a very important moment, and we had an opportunity to express ourselves to the commission about our idea of customer service and value and quality. And Market, in our belief, we're very proud of its success. We feel like it's a very positive contributor to the area. We're super excited about our guest reactions. Kristen and I today spent most of the day trying to get ready for a reopening, which we did today actually, and so we're reopened for carryout business again. But we've always taken our responsibility in the community very importantly. We think that the restaurants that do business in our town, the ones that take care of the people closest to it, our residents, the ones that are our everyday guests, are the ones that we're trying to please on a regular basis. And we're super excited that Market has accomplished many of those goals that we hoped for 9 years ago now. It was 9 years ago that we came before the commission and asked for that bistro opportunity. We're so excited about the evolution of our area, the district, and we're excited to hear that the city has identified the Market North District as a bit of a moniker for the ongoing master plan. And I met with commissioners way back 8-9 years ago, and the visions for the farmers market and the concept of how our area would grow in the city were, there were discussions back then, and to see them starting to come about and to be discussed more fervently, and we're happy that we've been an opportunity to be a part of it. We hope that we think that along the way we've realized that the greatest success that our restaurant has on a daily basis is the people that work in it, and so when we bring to you this new opportunity, it's really on the strength and the belief of the group that we've assembled over the time. And so our focus has been to try to provide opportunities for our employees and to provide growth chances that kind of fit our MO. I'm not sure that everyone realizes what a approach that we put towards food at Market, but it's a primary part of what we do every day, and we think that that's a big part of its success, that it's a food first restaurant. And along the way, many of our staff have really stuck with us, and they've changed their personal lives. They've had opportunities that to grow and to take positions that were new to them, and they've really we're really proud of that. And so EM, or the acronym for employee meal, is a story that we kind of live every day, and it's
Mr. Bongiovanni.
Yeah,
I love this story. We all have it in our package. I want you to. I see the passion in you. I love it. I want you to please, for the sake of time and the business of the city, please focus on a brief description of the concept, including the type of food you're going to serve, the price point, the ambiance of the bistro, the unique characteristic of your operation. Also, we already know the proposed location, your hours of operation, the date and opening of it. And that's pretty much, go ahead, but keep the passion going.
Sure. I'll keep it kind of to the point. So it's a Mexican restaurant, and it's meant to be very authentic. It's grown from the group that we put together. Our staff are the instrumental part of this. They're the ones that inspire our ability to believe that we can accomplish these type of goals for our town. We really want a rustic, cozy environment. We want it to be casual and lively, like any little small operation can be. It's a small restaurant. It's 1,000 square feet. So it'll feature a nice little patio outside. It'll have a feeling of like a little place in Mexico that might have been your favorite spot that you happened upon on a vacation, and we want it to be every day, and a place that guests will feel confident that is a regular part of their repertoire. We hope it. We want to run. We'll be a 7-day-a-week operation. Pretty much 12 or 11 or 12 in the morning until midnight nightly. Our expectation is that it would be, we see how Mexican has been done in many areas, and we're not opening a taco restaurant. This is meant to be a more full Mexican experience in a small space. A lot of fresh fish. We have a little cevicheria that we're going to do, which is more like a raw fish bar, and we think that it'll be many little craveable items, but not that expansive of a menu. You know, just a nice touch of all different areas of Mexico. And along the way, we'll put some twists in. We always have, and try to make sure that we keep our guests kind of excited by it all.
Thank you, Mr. Bongiovanni, for the wonderful, passionate, beautiful presentation you have. I think we usually go further on the bistro applicants. As you know, Mr. Bongiovanni, especially bistros, we really filter the people financially, where they're coming from, their experience. I think you already passed that stage in our city, but I speak for myself here. I know your establishment, but with that, I encourage you to keep going because personally, I feel with this pandemic situation we're going through, it's very difficult for restaurantes to operate. And I love that you're positive, number one, you and your wife, Kristen, that you're still pursuing your dream. You're still expanding your business. All what I can say, I wish you the best of luck. I speak for myself, but also for the rest of the commission. The whole city appreciate you keep investing in our city and keep continuing. But with that, I would really leave it to the commission to please stay tuned with us to see if the commission have further questions and clarification for you or for Jenna, if you don't mind.
For sure.
Commissioner, I would, I'm looking for hands there. Look, I'm using my mouse for the wrong computer here. Hold on. This Zoom thing is, Commissioner Hoff, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I just want to ask about the building because I wasn't quite clear. You're still going to have Market on the corner, right?
Yes, for
Is that
sure.
correct? Yes.
Yeah,
And then this is going to be in the next building. The next building is a 2-story building. And are you using the second floor where Red Salon is?
No, we're using the first floor where the former Elizabeth's was.
Right. Only the first floor.
Yeah.
So the diagram that is in our packet, it doesn't show Market. It's just, well, maybe you're taking it from this angle. You're looking north and you only show this building, the 2-story building.
That is correct. That is correct.
Okay. Will there be a door between them or is there any connection?
There are doors in the, there's a door through the hallway of 470 that takes you back through the back of the building. Yes.
What is 470? Market?
That's our space that we're in. Market's 474 and this space is 470. So there's a straight hallway back and it does lead to the back of the building that they both share an exit to.
Okay, but my question is, are these two separate operations? They happen to be next door to each other, but could you have opened this somewhere else?
No, not my idea, not in our thoughts, no.
So what makes them two separate bistros?
Two separate.
There's complete separation between the two operations. There's a wall between there. It's a new space that the landlord has become available for.
So patrons will not be able to go between one and the other?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Nikita, go ahead.
Yes. Joe and Kristen, for coming with another concept that looks quite interesting. I appreciate your investment and your time put forth in the city so far. And you're right, this is an exciting district, and we can only see it getting better over time. So I think you're in a great spot to see more advancement and excitement in that area. And we imagine that whatever you would do, it would add to that. Just a logistical question, I think, along the lines of Commissioner Hoff's question, which is relative to the building. Now, you don't own the building, the two-story building. You have no ownership there?
We do not.
Okay. If I could continue, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
Question, thank you. It was really, you proposed quite an enhancement or a revision, I should say, to the building facade. Something you've fully gone through with the owner, and is everybody comfortable with the idea of doing a relatively complete redo of the facade and all that?
Yes, we're comfortable with it. I mean, it's a process that we have to go through with our landlord as well and everyone involved, but yes.
Okay.
We're committed to that part of the project.
Okay. And lastly, if I could, Mr. Mayor, last thing is the just you referenced the salon upstairs. Is that going to continue as it has been?
To my knowledge, yes. Yeah, the landlord would speak more further about it, but I haven't heard of any change in their tenancy.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Nikita. Commissioner Baller, go ahead.
Yes, thank you very much. You guys are becoming quite the restaurant dynasty in town. And we hope you will, I trust it will be as inviting a space as your other 3 restaurants are. Can we count on superlative interior design?
I think so. That's, we've, our family has become really close friends with Ron Ray and his group over the years. So Ron's part of this project as well. And he's the one that feels so strongly about the change in the exterior of the building, to reference Mr. Nikita's comments, that in the past meetings that we've had in front of planning, in front of some of the design review elements of the city, EFIS is on the out, and improved streetscapes are super important to the way the city looks at some of these bistros and a lot of these properties. I remember that when we got approved for market, the board was very excited about the fact that we were changing the look of a building that was not viewed as being one of the better looking buildings in town. And this is just a further thought on that process. We would be the first floor tenants of this building. So back to Mr. Nikita's comments as well, we're committed to that property for a very long time. And our hope is to, with the amount of changes to the dynamics in the area, with the buildings to our south, the condos to our south, the apartments to our north, and then the variety of improvements to single-family residences in the area, the guest is changing every day, and there's some opportunity there, especially with the way things have changed during the center of town. We've changed some restaurants around the city, especially around City Hall and City Center. We see opportunity on the north side. You mentioned dynasty. I don't want that to be viewed negatively, because, to be honest with you, we wouldn't grow anything if we didn't feel like we had a group of people that could serve this city very, very well. And my wife and I are super excited about where we've been. We've come a long way. We opened Lux for my dad a long time ago. We obviously open market, and it was a huge gamble for both of us, and we've taken a lot of risk, and it's turned out to be a very successful operation for us, and I think for the guests that come there. And what we want to do here is just a little spot, and it's 1,000 square feet. It's Mexican in nature. It should be spirited still. It's going to have a lively front patio in the summer, but it's going to have 40 seats in the winter, and it's not really a very big restaurant.
I have another question, if it's okay.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
You've now been through this process with us several times, I think, and I believe that we have changed the process somewhat, and tonight is just one checkbox in quite a long process. And I wonder how that process meshes with, a business plan and, having to get things done. Does this process work for you guys, or are there components of it, let's say, that might be improved?
Oh, I mean, it's not something you do very often. So this process works for us. The one that we went through previously was a little bit more extensive, and we had to provide more. Jana and her group have kind of streamlined this so that it brings me in front of the group and allows me to at least talk to you about our idea and get us to a point where we're at least on the record that we're moving forward or not. And, we realize the intensity that the city has towards its liquor license operators, and we hear, loud and clear, and we pay attention to the details that city management and the commission want for the style and the way that their restaurants and bars operate. And we wouldn't give this a go if we didn't think that it would be a plus for the group that's closest to us, the people especially on the north end. But then again, most of the Birmingham residents, we have a really nice local following, and we're really proud of it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Commissioner Sherman, go ahead.
Thanks for being here tonight. Really appreciate it. Just want to get a little more detail on your menu thoughts and where you're going. When you talk about a Mexican restaurant, that can really run the gamut. You had said that this isn't going to be a taco place. You have Owl, and you've got about 18, 20 items on the menu. And that's basically a Mexican theme. Is it something along those lines? Is it more upscale? What are you thinking?
Sure. Thanks. I appreciate you being to Owl before. No, it's not like Owl. We think that this area needs, a couple parts of it. First of all, on the Mexican side of things, tacos are so common and so particular per every group that goes around. We want to do a pastor. We want to cook from a vertical broiler, and we want to take various meats, whether it's pork or chicken, even beef at times, and cook it on that vertical broiler, and then we'll use it in certain dishes that we want to do. So we may do tacos al pastor on a regular basis, but that might be the only taco that you can get in our place because it's so small. And we think that the magic of Owl is those very specific items that are craveable and good. So you don't need a lot of them, but some people love a burger, some people love the nacho, some people like, and it has a whole breakfast component. This is more like I mentioned in my notes, seaside Mexican. So we want to do a lot of fresh seafood. We want to do a lot of, we have an idea for two parts of it, both a cevicheria, which is a variety of ceviches that are made really fresh and really fast. And then also there's a item in Mexico called aguachile. And it's a shrimp dish that's also made from raw shrimp, and it's cured with lime and various spices and jalapenos and such. And so we want to introduce some of that, as well as our little pastor. And then there will be a series of entree dishes, but they'll be small, like a roast chicken, and then a couple of special twists that we have. I mentioned in my notes that there's this huge Middle Eastern contingent in Mexico. And so you'll feel a little tinge of some things that we garner from Market out of it. You know, we have a great house bread that we make over at Market, and we'll probably try to use something of that sort so that we can bring it to our guests here at Employee Meal. But really, think of it more of a derivative of the people working in it and trying to, you know, the employee meal concept was where our cooks would make something every day that they wanted to eat, and they would provide it for all of our staff, servers, barbacks, all different people, and we come together in the kitchen. That's the spirit of it. And so really, it'll have a little chameleon side to it. It'll feel new always, and at least that's our hope. You know, it's small little place, but a few craveable items.
Any other hands
If
there?
I may continue?
Any, Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Yes.
So what is the price point that you're looking at for the restaurant?
I don't know. I would imagine you'd see items between $10 and $25, $20. It's not meant, you know, Mexican cuisine's not meant to be overtly expensive. It's meant to be plentiful and vibrant and full of flavor, but not an expensive restaurant. More of a, I guess, $2 signs is according to Yelp or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions from the commissioner for the applicant? No. Joe, I again wish you best of luck myself, but I have just a comment actually to make. What your concept is wonderful. As you know, you repeated several times the size is small of the restaurant, 1,000 square feet. But when I elaborate on your comment, bistro is made to be small. It's the impact that you will create and activate a whole street. I wish only that the place would have been either further south or further north of exactly your existing Market North, but that's my preference. Not to say I don't support your vision by any means, because that's really the definition of a bistro, is to activate a street. You've already proven model to activate a street there, an area actually. Again, my only if I have to have it all, I would tell you move up further buildings south or north. But right now, this is the place that's available, and I think we need to focus on the financials aspect. I know you probably applied maybe to do this, or maybe the thought was maybe before the COVID-19. I am not sure, Joe or Kristen. I just want to make sure that you're moving forward, and as maybe I read somewhere in your application or your story that it's self-funded. With this time economic depression that we're facing, unfortunately, is there any hesitation moving forward? That's my only concern to you and your family.
It would be foolish not to say that there was hesitation with respect to the way things are going. I think that Kristen and I talked about it even as quickly as today at a period of time. We really believe in the city, our guests, our ability to meet their needs, to adapt if necessary. And I think I really believe that we will see a normal again. And I have to believe that. I'm in the restaurant business, and I want that to be very much the case. I'm not a scientist, not a doctor or anything else, but I'm a hopeful business owner, and it doesn't pay me a lot of good to not think of that possibility. So I'm a big believer in that. I have a lot of faith that maybe science will prevail, or we will get back to a normal sooner than later. We're also prepared for that to be whenever. yeah, we're self-funded. We're not looking for bank help on this one or anything like that. It's a project that we think fits our little operation that we have going on there, and we hope to distinguish it separately from our other restaurant. We think we will. I hear your concerns with respect to proximities. The North End's limited. It's limited in terms of parking opportunities. It's limited in terms of zoning opportunities for other restaurants in the area. We've already made a pretty substantial commitment to our little stretch of North Old Woodward. We think that the addition of this streetscape can bring some vibrance to an area where, like, I hate to say like the beginning of the whole action, but the beginning of the action. So
you have a lease already, Joe, signed, and you're committed to the place and moving forward. Give you the worst case scenario, and I'm not trying to get personal. It's just we have requirements and mostly financial burden on people when we move forward and we issue bistros and we know the person cannot move forward. As this is a unique time, this is a very unprecedented time, I should say. And I'm pretty sure you thought it through before moving forward. Now, if we decided as a commission to take it to the next step, move it forward to the planning board, there's more money involved, there's design, there's lease commitment, you probably already are, which are just clarifying that you probably thought all that through and you're comfortable whether it's a 6 month to a year, the new norm where your market, I hope that's, again, like you said, we're all praying for a miracle vaccine to happen as of yesterday, but it might not, and we don't want to go into the details of it, but mostly how it's going to impact your business. And you're in a business that it's the most impacted business right now. That's all. And again, I don't. It's any right of us as a city officials to ask those questions. Are you committed?
Yes.
And are you okay financially? That's all.
Yeah, very, very much so. If necessary, further proof needed, we could provide that if necessary.
When the time comes, I think we're fine right now. But with that, I finish my comments. Do I see any other comments? Any other questions? Commissioner Huff, go ahead.
I think what we're being asked to do tonight is to make a motion to send this on to the planning board for a full site plan and design review. And we don't have to analyze this any deeper now because planning board will, and it will come back to us. So with that, I'd like to make the motion.
Awesome. We got a motion from Commissioner Huff, seconded by Commissioner Nikita. Any comment on the motion from the commissions? I see none. Any comment? Mayor Pro Tem Long.
Yes, Commissioner Baller just asked me to notify the group that he had a power failure and he's trying to get back into the meeting.
Oh, okay. We'll watch for him. We will continue with our meeting as we have a quorum.
Yes.
And hopefully he'll get back soon.
He's almost there. He is.
You got him?
Almost.
Awesome.
But I saw him drop, and I was just working on getting back in.
I think I was asking any comment from the public on the motion. I don't see any hands. Okay, I'll bring it back. With that, will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Huff?
Yes.
Commissioner Host?
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Baller?
Yes.
Mayor Boutros?
Yes. Good luck, Joe and Kristen. We'll see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you, everybody. We appreciate the time.
All the best.
Thank you very much.
Yep. And then now we move to our second item on the new business, which is a resolution approving the amendment to the Beverly Hills Racquet Club and authorizing the mayor and city clerk to sign on behalf of the city. With that, I'll turn it into our city manager, Joe Valentine.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As you know. Okay. As you may know, the city leases property to the Birmingham Racquet Club, which is located just west of the Birmingham Ice
Hold it.
Arena.
I'm having trouble understanding.
I think that's the whole idea of this particular issue. It's getting more bandwidth at City Hall.
Too much bandwidth.
It is off. Oh, wrong one.
Are we supposed to be on the Beverly Hills Racquet Club?
Yes.
Yes. We are, but this was a perfect example of why we need more bandwidth. Okay, you got it? Okay, I think we're good. Work through our technical difficulties here. So as you may recall, the Birmingham Racquet Club is located to the west of the Birmingham Ice Arena on property that's leased to the Racquet Club by the city of Birmingham. They've been under this arrangement for well over 25 years and have run the operation there during that time. They also have made significant improvements to that property over the years. They've come to us recently in regards to looking at a deferred lease payment arrangement carrying them through September, which we've referred over to legal counsel to draft an amendment to their existing agreement to cover those terms. So with that, we do have Mr. Stassen, who's on the line with us as well from the Birmingham Racquet Club, if there's any questions for him. Jeff, are you there?
Yes. I can see everyone. I don't know if you can see me, but I can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Mr. Stassen, thank you so much. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Mr. Stassen? Commissioner Hoff, go ahead.
Yes, if I understand this correctly, what we're going to do is to defer your monthly lease rate for 5 months, and then you will start paying it in September, the additional, which will, if I did this correctly, it will make your monthly payment $6,800 instead of $5,629. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So how do you anticipate that you would be able to pay $6,800 beginning in September and then going through for 24 months?
Well, we certainly hope to be up and running. You know, we're anxious to get back into the building. We were, shut down by the governor, which we understand, and until we're issued the ability to reopen, then I think we just wanted to be able to retain as much cash flow as possible, based on the fact that we are still in a prime time of our season when we were shut down. So we were shut down in the near the end of March and already for this month, and maybe going forward a little bit more. So we're just trying to prepare and to work with our clients and work with our our employees to make sure that we can maintain some distance until we can get going again. Our business is very, it's successful once we can open. We're primarily a one that relies on, lessons and activities. And once we can get up and running again, we should be in good shape. But we know that there's going to be some time in that. And so we're just trying to build up as much safety net as we can in the meantime.
Okay, so you anticipate your monthly payments are currently $5,629 a month. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. And then with this deferment, as I said, it'll be $6,801. Okay, that's fine. Also, I think I want to ask you about this extension of the time to improve the courts, the resurfacing. Would you tell us a little about that?
Well, that was just when we extended our lease, we actually had that as a date and time, and I just was asking Mr. Valentine in the commission to possibly loosen that, just in case that, again, to maintain cash flow, make sure we can get up and running. And we're committed to paying all of our lease. We're committed to doing all the resurfacing. We're just looking for a little bit of time to, get our business up and running again.
Great. Okay. Well, I think you really provide a very valuable service in Birmingham, and I'm fully supportive.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other questions for Mr. Stassen? Commissioner Baller, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question for the city manager. I'm looking at the agenda. It's pretty clear that we're doing this because Mr. Stassen asked us to. And I wonder, and by doing it, we're being good landlords. I think that landlords all across the city are doing things like this. And I wonder if we have any other tenants.
We do. We have a tenant over at the Birmingham Art Center. They're paying us, I believe, $1 a year for the lease of that property. So rather than ask them to forego their payments, I thought, and they hadn't raised the question, I thought we'd leave that one alone. I believe that's the only other arrangement like that we have with regard to city property.
But that's a U.S. dollar.
I think we're setting a good example.
I agree.
If I may, Mr. Mayor.
You go ahead, Commissioner Sherman, please.
Mr. Valentine, don't we also lease some parking lots by the Hunter House property? There's a lot behind the Hunter House.
Oh, that was.
We lease property for a parking lot?
Correct.
Yes.
I think there may be a couple others like that.
I think he's.
We have one near the dairy mat too. There's just a couple spots there.
The audio.
We lease a couple spots on that location.
Do they pay monthly or yearly?
I don't recall, Commissioner Sherman. It's not great because there's only 2 spots at the dairy mat.
That's what I thought.
Yep.
So, if I may, the other question, there were two parts to this request. One of them was the lease deferral, and the other was the delay in or extending the time for the repairing or replacing the courts, resurfacing the courts. I don't see that in the agreement.
Commissioner Sherman, where are you reading the second part? We only have one resolution.
There was a part about deferring the, where is it?
That's in Mr. Stassen's letter.
Correct.
Second paragraph.
It was in his letter, but so we are not agreeing to that?
I guess I just want to check, and I'd refer to Mr. Courier too, that the references with regard to sections in the agreement, attachment A, is that inclusive of the extension of the duration for the construction work or the renovation work?
Just not like checking.
Mr. Mayor?
I guess, yeah, go ahead, Commissioner
While
Ball.
they're
Look that up.
they are perusing the document, it might be worth having Mr. Stassen clarify what exactly he's asking for.
It was, we had offered, not offered, we really, to be competitive, we need to make sure that our courts are, you know, in the utmost condition to compete within our radius of all the other clubs. And it is something that we feel strongly that we need to do and do as quickly as possible. Again, we're just in a very unique situation where we don't know when we're going to open, whether we can have, you know, how large our business can start out initially. And so we're just looking for, we want to be in complete agreement and fulfillment of our contractual terms and just be very upfront and clear. And I think that was one item in there that, you know, was just the idea of being able to give us a little bit more comfort about keeping our.
I'm sorry. And all I'm asking is, it appears right now that you're required to resurface the front four courts by 2022. Mm-hmm. You want to change and I would say by the end of 2022. You want to change that to by when? What's the date?
I think the rest of the changes in there were left open-ended, just done within the contractual term of the contract.
And help me, what's the contractual term of the contract?
It's I think it'd be for about 15 years. But we need to do this as soon as our cash flow would allow us. And so, you know, as I mentioned, to be competitive, our court surface is really the utmost. And so we're just you know, we're going to do it. We need to make sure that we just can honor.
I understand. And I understand what you're saying. And as someone who needs to vote on this, I would like to know precisely what you're asking. So you said 15 years from when? What is the date that you're asking that time period be extended to?
We signed a new term. I believe it was like last year or so. So, you know, again, you know, even if it were to give us a couple more years beyond that, just to just give us a little bit more safety net. That's all.
Go ahead, Joe.
Mr. Mayor, I would propose that, given the lack of clarity with regard to that specific language, that for purposes of the lease payment, I would ask that you approve the agreement as is proposed this evening with regard to the lease payment provisions, because that'll take care of the April payment. And we can bring this back to you at a subsequent time with further detail on the terms for the court renovations, in as much as that's not going to happen until after 2022.
And we hope to have these courts resurfaced, you know, prior, you know, to that or in that time frame. I guess when I was looking at the broad basing, I was just looking at it from a big picture standpoint, and it wasn't in the thing that the agreement that I signed, and I just felt like it was most important just to get the relief from the payments. Then I was concerned about committing to that date. But in the biggest scheme of things, I just want to honor our commitment, and I don't want to be in default of anything as we're trying to get closer to those dates. So that was simply that. But so I'm, you know, I signed off on it, and I'm completely in agreement. But it was in my letter, and that's why I was trying to explain that part of it.
Mr. Courier, would you like to add something? I saw your hands.
Sure. I did look at Exhibit A. Exhibit A does not contain anything except the lease payments. There was some direction I missed to extend the term or to extend the resurfacing of the tennis courts themselves. It's not in the agreement. It would have to come back. You can approve these payments today. We'll bring the rest of it back in another amendment.
So, are the commissioners comfortable to move this forward per our manager's suggestion and come back with some revision? Commissioner Hall?
Yes, I have a question. When we're talking about dates, I see that the tennis facility lease was initially instituted in 1998, and amended and restated in 2014. Maybe that's what Mr. Stassen was referring to, then 15 years from there, which would be 2029. So it seems to me if we are revising it once more for the lease payments, that sentence about the resurfacing should be included. I understand this one that I'm looking at now that we have refers only to the lease payments. But shouldn't, if another revision is taking place, and we're going to date it now, April 20th, 2020, shouldn't that be inclusive?
I will have our city attorney answer that, please.
If I understood it when we came forward, the only revision of the lease payments was to take the 5 payments and take them, divide them up over the next 2 years. That was the purpose. There was not an extension of the term for 2 years. But that was the understanding I had. And if I misunderstood it, that's the way I wrote it. You said it was they take those 5 months lease payments and spread them out over 2 years. There was not an extension of the total term of the contract.
Is there any rush on this matter? Do we believe if we take our time, Superior, and revise the agreement accordingly and make sure we understand every angle from Mr. Stassen, what's the requirement right now, or do we need to move a part of it as time-wise? I'm not sure.
I think you want to move this part of it now because it's applicable to his April payment, which is what the intent was.
Okay.
And like I said, if you would deal with this part of the contract now, we can bring forward at a subsequent time any subsequent extension with regard to the work on the courts, because that's not as pressing.
I completely agree with Mr. Valentine on that, yes.
Okay, I'm just clarifying the air here and making sure that the rest of the commission understand what we're moving tonight and then what might come back to us in the future. With that, I'll leave it to any other questions, comments. Commissioner Sherman, go ahead.
I'm going to move the suggested resolution.
Okay.
Second.
Seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Therese Long. And with that, we have a motion and second. Any comment on the motion from the commission? See none. Any comment on the motion from the public? I see none. Okay, I'll bring it back. And now, will the city clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Host?
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita?
Yes.
Commissioner Baller?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoff?
Yes.
Mayor Boutros?
He's
Mayor Boutros? Mayor Boutros?
We momentarily lost him. We're getting him back now.
Okay.
Do those.
The Wi-Fi connection.
Yokohama?
We're just working through some technical difficulties here.
Commissioner Host, it sounds like you have some background noise.
Sorry.
So did you get kicked off?
Should I lower my volume, Alex?
If there's other sound in the room, it would be helpful.
Okay.
Looks like he'll be back in just a minute.
Where's my volume button?
Bottom right-hand corner, should be.
Okay. Jeez.
Bottom right-hand corner.
Yep.
I think what you're looking for is mute.
Did you find it, Commissioner Host?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Right. Mayor Boutros is coming back in. I just saw him sign on.
There he is.
All right, Alex, where were we?
We're on you.
Aye.
Racquetball
Yes.
club. Yes, that's a yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Resolution passed.
I'd like to thank the commission and the city for their support, and can't wait to get up and running and keeping people fit and happy in our city.
Thank you, Mr. Stassen. My 3 kids go there, and we love going there. Keep the place, please, as it is, and keep it maintained. We appreciate what you do for us.
Thank you.
Take care. Have a good evening. That we go to item C under new business resolution authorizing the amendment to the existing agreement with DRV contractors dated February 1st, 2020 to conduct the slab edge repair for an amount not to exceed $148,370. With that, we have Tiffany, I guess, with us.
Hello, everyone.
Ms. Gunter, the floor is yours.
Wonderful. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. I just yelled at my 7-year-old to quiet it down, so hopefully he won't be too disruptive. I apologize in advance if we have a little minion running behind me. So today we submitted, rather late, unfortunately, a memo talking about the now North Oak Woodward facade removal and vehicle barrier installation project. As you recall, on February 1st, we had an emergency meeting to discuss this project, given the issues associated with the precast concrete panels, which were suffering from severe erosion and deterioration. At that meeting, the commission approved a project combined with WJE and DRB contractors for a cost not to exceed $616,000. At that meeting, we did discuss the fact that the estimate was put together rather rapidly and with the best information that we had available at the time. So work began immediately to finalize the design work and the approval of the demolition and subsequent building permits necessary to complete the project and move it forward. The project was gaining momentum when the governor's executive order regarding shelter in place was issued, and our project was deemed a critical infrastructure project and has continued despite the shelter in place. When we recognized that the capacity or the occupancy in the garage at the time after the shelter in place was around 30 cars a day at max, we made the decision to shut the garage down completely and more aggressively remove all of the precast panels surrounding the structure. And part of the reason for that rationale was, well, one, it was an empty structure and we could move more aggressively. But second, we were aggressively and feverishly, thanks to DRV contractors, working to get all of the materials needed to install the vehicle barriers, whereas before we believed we had time to move one elevation at a time. We no longer had that luxury as one of the manufacturers for the steel post was likely to shut down soon. And so we were able to secure all of the materials, but in the meantime, we didn't want the project to slow down as a result of the slowed workforce. And the good news, as of Friday, April 17th, this past week, all of the precast panels have been removed from the structure. At this point in time, if you've been by it, it's quite a sight to see. It looks a lot different without the old look of the structure being there along Old Woodward. I guess the expected news, not so much the bad news, but the expected news is we found some more corrosion and deterioration that we were able to detect initially. And that erosion and deterioration is primarily located on that south side elevation. That south side elevation we know has a 6 foot, just over 6 foot grade difference from the north side, and it is on the downward side where the water and other elements tend to collect more aggressively and pull your salt and erosion, and all those things happen more aggressively in that location. So you have some pictures in the packet that was sent over today that show the difference between that north side elevation where you don't see as much of that erosion versus the south side where pretty much if you touch one of those steel components that's exposed now, it's like sugar. It just sort of crumbles when you touch it with your fingers. And so in talking with DRV at a site review on Friday, we talked about what the various options were, and we did ask them to provide us with a quote for that work. That steel track that surrounds the structure is a continuous track. And now that the precast panels are removed, those other areas are also going to be exposed to elements that they weren't exposed to before. And you'll see even in the quote that DRV provided, they removed $16,000 for some of the spot repairs they had begun doing on the other sides of the structure. Knowing that we would find some erosion and some deterioration, they included that in their initial estimate. We did not anticipate the amount that was actually discovered as of last week. So with that, they came back with the estimate for the entire structure to have the slab edge removed and repaired completely. And the rationale for this is simple. We want to make sure that the repair that we make today lasts for more than 2 to 3 years, since what we believe is the responsible thing to do. And so allowing that to happen now, also while there's no occupancy in the structures, I guess the timing is somewhat fortuitous in that we can get it done without much impact or disruption to the downtown. And so when it's time to reopen it downtown, we can open up the garage completely without any more parking spaces being taken up for construction. And other than that, we're just, it seemed like the logical approach, and we didn't want it to wait any longer, because in talking with WJE, the engineers for the project, if we are going to move forward with the slab edge repair, they want that to definitely move before the vehicle barrier system is installed. And the reason for that is the disruption from all of the drilling to the slab edge could definitely disrupt the integrity of the design as it was intended. And so we don't want to see that happen moving forward. And on the line, I believe he's still here. I'll look for him just a moment, is the DRV Representative Derek Vitor, who has been lead on the project and runs DRV. So if you have questions for either him or we're here to take those questions. So thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Any questions from the commissioners to Tiffany or? Bless you.
Commissioner Host has a comment.
Commissioner Host.
Yeah, Tiffany, you did mention $616,000. Was that the correct amount to be?
Yes.
Okay. And then you also mentioned that this railing or rail will be good for 2 to 3 years, or did I mishear you?
That was so the 2 to 3 years was when we would expect to have to make repairs to the other elevations if we did not address the outer slab edge today around the entire perimeter of the garage.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Sorry, Commissioner Hoff, go ahead.
Yes, I have a question in regard to the photographs that were included in our packet. It may be just visual, but it looks like the top 2 floors are level. That next floor doesn't look level. It looks like it's kind of swayed. Is that just an optical illusion, or what's happening with that? Is it level? Is that floor level?
That is the way in which that floor is not level. There's actually some ramping that goes on to get you to other elevations. And I don't want to speak fully to that ramping. If Derek, you want to chime in about that, the way in which the structure is designed on each level, where I don't think you can see it quite as well because of the angle the picture was taken on, but that slope exists on all of those levels. Derek, do you want to add anything to that?
Yes, that is correct, Tiffany. It is ramped up. It is, it's designed that way. And I think the picture throws everyone off a little bit as well.
So it is not level, but it's supposed to be.
It is not.
It is not
supposed to be ramped. It's not supposed to be level.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Baller, you had your hand. Go ahead.
I did. Thank you. A couple of questions. In the second photo in the presentation, that's the south side. There are a couple of vertical members. There are similar vertical members on other elevations. There seems to be some corrosion on those. Are they going to stay? Are they going to be replaced? Are they essential to the structure? What's the deal with those?
Are you talking about the pillars that are internal to the structure that you can see some erosion there?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
On the second picture, directly to the right of the "Do Not Enter" sign, there's two of them, and then there's two more, but they're not on every floor.
Correct.
Yeah.
So those are what I am calling my bad babies right now. We're working towards, and I did include, I know you didn't have a lot of time to look at the memo that was shared, but we are looking at if there was a question of, are there any more change orders possibly that could be coming before the commission for this project? Those internal pillars on the inside of the structure show no erosion, no deterioration at all. On the outside, of course, now that we've exposed them, there's some serious deterioration that we can see on those. So I'm working with WJE and the DRB team to come up with a solution that could get us to reinforce those posts on the inside. We did agree with WJE that after 50 years of settling, we don't know what support they provide to the third floor, between the second and third floor, so we don't want to remove them. But there are options for some form of a wrap around them with the same materials that are being used for the steel posts that are being galvanized for the vehicle barrier installation, and to find an opportunity to look at the design to basically wrap those, create that reinforcement, and eliminate the look of the deterioration. They're not attractive. We agree with you. We've had a lot of back and forth, a lot of fights about whether to remove them or not to remove them, but to err on the side of caution, because we don't know what supports they provide. Even if they weren't initially intended to provide those supports, we want to keep a form post there to shore up the structure and its integrity.
Good. Thanks. Other question. We're doing every slab edge. All the way around on every floor, correct? What are the aesthetics?
On the second, third, and fourth levels, I apologize.
Not on the first. Okay, right. The ground level, no need. What are the aesthetics of that? What's it going to look like?
So if you look at the picture for the north side elevation, it will look better than that, but you will be getting closer to a smooth concrete finish along each edge that has no pictures of deterioration or erosion. So it won't look much different than that north side elevation. And Derek, correct me if I'm wrong if you plan to shine it up and make it more attractive, but it will be concrete.
It will be concrete, correct.
Okay. And then
smooth concrete, smooth, uniform.
Good. And I guess have we yet seen an actual picture of some kind of schematic or any kind of drawing of what this is going to look like when it's done?
We have the one visual that was provided at the February 10th meeting. Forgive me if I don't have that date correct. That was not an actual drawing. It was a mock-up of what the vehicle barrier system would look like. And I can definitely check in with WJE to find out if we have any more updated information that we can share visually for you. But I don't know that exists today.
I think that's the big question on everybody's mind is community too. People are saying, what's this thing going to look like when it's done? And, nice to know.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for Tiffany? Yeah, Mayor Pro Tem Long, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So yeah, the drawing that was presented to us at the February 1 meeting was presented as an idea of what it might look like, because
that point had not yet been designed. So I'm also interested to know what the design of the cabling system looks like. I think that's of interest to everyone. I think that your recommendation to repair all the slab edges at once is excellent, because that puts us in a position to be able to start talking about what a new facade looks like, and to take advantage of this time while we have it, while the deck's not being used. I don't think we should put that off. We have a gift of low utilization now, which may last for a little while longer, and we should take advantage of it.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Protem. Commissioner Hoff, go ahead.
If we're ready, I'll move the suggested resolution to amend the amendment to the existing agreement with DRV Contractors dated February 1st, 2020 to conduct the slab edge repair, I would add, on 4 sides for an amount not to exceed $148,370.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Sherman. Any comment on the motion by the commission? Commissioner Nikita, go ahead.
Yeah, just one follow-up comment to Tiffany, and I guess it's relative to the motion because we're looking at funding this this continued remedy for the decaying deck. Tiffany, you were mentioning the columns that are now exposing the reinforcement under the crumbled concrete. And a half, I've done a number of walkthroughs, and there are a number of other areas where I've witnessed personally cracks and a number of other problems that I only anticipate seeing them getting worse. So has there, now that we've had the initial problem of the falling facade, and then now the secondary issue currently of the crumbling deck edges, and I mean floor decking, and now we know that there's a crumbling column exposing reinforcement bars that are rusted below, and I know for a fact there's other issues that I've witnessed. Have we had the contractor do a current? I know we had in the past, as we've looked at this deck, we've had in the past some review about the problems that the deck had and they were concerned about. But have we had this consultant do kind of an overall review so we can get a better idea of what kind of costs that we're looking at? And, you know, here we're a couple months in from the first 600,000. Now we're being asked for another 150,000. Now we're at $750,000. And I only anticipate this number continuing to grow. And current day update on the costs that this deck is going to really come to, at least to keep it secure and safe?
Absolutely. So to your question, and in this space of looking at opportunities, while we have what Mayor Pro Tem so appropriately referred to as this gift of low occupancy at the moment, I did ask WJE to accelerate the structural assessment. We do have this same ongoing process where we're doing the structural reviews of each of the garages currently. And they completed that assessment and have identified only the critical items. So what I want to be careful not to do necessarily is to get into projects that could be deemed non-essential and find us in a bit of trouble if we're pushing projects that aren't critical at the moment. But we did find some other areas, like you said, with the exposed rebar and some other areas in the garage that could be addressed now. I've asked DRB to take a look at those items so that we can review them, understand what the financial impacts are while they're still in the garage. We could get some economies of scale. They've already got a trailer set up and a crew that's quite available because of the fact that only essential projects are moving forward at this time. There's some waterproofing opportunities as well to try to shore up the work that is being done so that we don't end up in this situation as quickly if we don't protect the infrastructure work that we're doing right now. So we're looking at all of those aspects and hope to have some more discussions with WJE and DRV in the coming week to get those costs identified and those specific projects identified and bring them back as soon as we can for you all to review and to move those forward if possible. So we do want to take advantage of the opportunity right now while the deck is empty to do exactly what you're saying and to make those projects a reality today.
Mr. Mayor, if I could continue.
Go ahead, Commissioner Nikita.
So to be clear, Tiffany, we are in the process of evaluating the whole thing, giving us some insight in the next month. What would you say time-wise? What are we looking at?
If you give me a month, we can definitely get some feedback for you. Absolutely.
Okay.
And Derek, I can confirm that you're working on that for me right now with respect to the costing to that last email on other opportunities, and especially at North Oak Woodward.
Yes.
Agreed to that. Yes.
Fantastic. Thank you.
On the same line, Tiffany, just to echo Mayor Pro Tem Long, and also the concern that Commissioner Nikita had about the financial and the economic impact that we're facing right now. With the structure, the addition, the change of order, and the money, I think this question maybe on a time-wise in taking advantage of this downtime of the usage of the parking, as we mentioned. What from Derek, I guess the question, what is the period of completion expected time? When are we talking to complete this? And the reason I ask is because, you know what, now he's an essential business and he is authorized to finish this. And yes, it is a crucial time. If he is an essential business is doing and it's a downtime, no cars going in and out, maybe really this is the time for us to put some input on the look of the facade. I agree, and this is the time when you do it immediately and you don't interrupt it again. If we're moving that directions, if we to do a design for a facade or enhance the facade. But what is the time, Derek?
We are looking at approximately 2 weeks to take care of the whole perimeter of that slab edge. Roughly 2 weeks right in there to finish that. Then we can start drilling probably within a week and a half from now, prior to the slab edge being done, so we can start erecting all the end posts and intermediate posts throughout the deck. So roughly, I would say within probably less than a month for completion.
Okay. I mean, by that time, maybe things would change, as we know, day by day with the governor's order right now.
Yes.
Maybe that would put us into a norm, maybe with some restriction to construction, but maybe you'll be able to follow through. But that doesn't apply to you now. But Mr. Curry, you got something to add?
Just to be clear, Public Works construction has not been stopped by the governor's order.
So, okay.
They can continue.
So regardless whether it's essential or not, to us, it's public work.
It's Public Works can continue, yes.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying that, Mr. Courier. All right, with that, guys, any other comments from the commissioner or questions on the motion? Any other comments from the public on the motion? I see none. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Hoff?
Yes.
Did you guys hear me?
I'm sorry, Alex, 1 second. Commissioner Nikita, did you have your hand raised?
He does. He's muted.
Okay, go ahead. Before we call the roll.
No, just before the vote, I just wanted to, I'm very concerned about the costs of this, this stopgap situation. You know, this deck has been decaying for quite a long time, and we're aware of the problems, and now we're unfortunately being put in a position to shore it up with, you know, every dollar that goes into this is really money that ultimately is just holding like this deck together. So it's very concerning, and I would say that there's going to be more money that's going to be, you know, we're closing in on $1 million, and I'm pretty sure, based on what I've observed personally, we're probably going to add to where we're at. And I guess I'm quite concerned about any thought about create perimeter facade, which frankly is going to cost considerably more money than what we're putting in already. So I absolutely important funding something that's going to keep the users safe and our pedestrians safe around the building, which is essentially crumbling. But to enhance it with a facade is something that I think we have to very seriously think about. So I think that right now we need to make it secure and safe and stop it from falling apart. And then I think there needs to be a much broader thought about what to do with this particular deck, because ultimately it's just bleeding costs and money. So with that, I will support the motion, but I'm very concerned at where it's at and where it's going. Thank you.
Commissioner Host?
Well, hey, I would love to hear Commissioner Kita or Tiffany talk about July 5th, 2019's engineering study of the building, which said it's been neglected. You're about $6.3 million behind regular maintenance in the last 10 years. So I'm comfortable all the way up to 6.3. I'm trying to be a little smart on this, but can you explain to me what was wrong with the July 5th, 2019, what would be look at by Jay? What did they miss?
Okay, I'm going to try to make sure I understand your question correctly, Commissioner Host. And what you're asking, what did they miss? Theirs was a preliminary visual observation of the deck that was a study requested based on what our SP Plus parking management team observes in walking the decks. And that was whenever we had corrosion that looked like a pillar was going to need removal, they would either shore up that and brace it, or when they recognized that they could not brace one of those posts, they would say, hey, we need someone else to come in and handle this. And so that's why WJE was contacted to do the preliminary visual observation. And they identified, I believe at the time it was 13 posts, don't quote me on that number, that needed to be removed immediately. Okay, so those posts that were removed immediately, and while they were in the deck for the preliminary visual observation, I try to get the most bang for my buck, or the most bang for the city's buck whenever we work with the contractor. Since they were there, I asked them just to give me an overall assessment of what they could visually observe in terms of needs for repair in the deck at that time. They were not able to do any sounding tests. They were not able to do anything beyond that with their visual only observations. In that preliminary assessment, they said they could observe close to about $6.5 million in repair and rehabilitation work that would shore up the deck for some period of time. And that period of time, I don't think was even disclosed in that assessment, because they felt it was a very light assessment that was done. So the impetus for the full structural assessment of all the garages is really so that they could do the thorough testing, test the concrete, understand what the absorption rates are for salt and other chemicals in the concrete and the effect on the rebar as a result, so that they can give us a final number on what repairs need to be made. That still has not yet been completed. to date. However, we're trying to move as quickly as we can to get that structural assessment done and get numbers to you that are sound and solid and can be backed fully as a full, sound, thorough structural investigation of the deck and its integrity. So the 6.5 was a preliminary number. We don't know yet what the final number is. We're working towards it as quickly as we can. I don't know if that fully answers the question you were seeking to have answered, but please let me know if there's anything else I can add to that discussion.
Thanks.
Right? Commissioner Baller, any comment on the motion?
You're muted, Clinton.
Yes, following up on the discussion by Mayor Boutros and Commissioner Nikita of the facade and whether that, whether we ought to work on that further or make any decisions. The commission did, I will remind you, instruct the administration to work with the master planners, and apparently there is some proposal out there that we haven't heard for incorporating the now property into the 2040 plan. And I think that is the proper avenue for deciding what, if anything, we will do beyond necessary repairs to the now structure. And I am eager to hear what the proposal is that Joe referenced several months ago or a month or two ago in his monthly update to the community. So whether we hear that tonight or not, that's the direction. That's, in my opinion, that's how we make those decisions about what beyond the necessary we do here.
Commissioner Sherman?
So this discussion has now gone beyond the motion. So at this point, I will call for the vote.
Okay. Commissioner Sherman?
So it's call for the vote.
There. Is there a public comment time?
Yes, I need to check the hand here. Mr. Bloom?
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Bloom.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. How can we talk about this parking structure and not have a comment from me? I think that as bad as the situation is with the whole North Woodward deck right now, we are in a vastly better position than we would have been, and we should recognize that had this bond actually passed. The construction and what was going to be going on and spending $50,000 or more for a space, a new parking space with underground construction. And given the pandemic that we have, it's kind of questionable whether this whole RH project would have continued to be feasible. So I think that we're all really lucky this bond didn't pass, and we should all figure out what's the best way to move forward with repairing or replacing the North Old Woodward structure.
Thank you, Mr. Bloom, for your comments. Any other, I guess we are called for the vote. Any other comments? Alex, here?
I don't see any other comments.
All right. Well, we'll further that discussion further. But for now, let's call the roll.
Okay.
Can you hear me, Alex?
Yep, barely. I'm still having connection problems. Commissioner Hoff?
As I said, yes.
Commissioner Sherman?
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Baller?
Yes.
Commissioner Host?
Yes.
Mayor Boutros?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, just quickly, maybe end this point with this. I know there was a lot of questions raised in terms of how this is going to proceed. And I just wanted to confirm in conversations I've had with Ms. Gunter earlier today, obviously we want to know where we're going to end up with this thing. And we don't know all of the answers yet as we peel back the onion on this structure. We do know that the significant components that need to be addressed are being addressed at this point in time. As the further evaluation is done, if we find anything at that point, we will come back to you with any subsequent actions that are needed. In the discussion we had today, we're not anticipating that that's going to be the case, but we don't know that to be true at this point. But we will come back to you with regard to any additional work that may be necessary. In regard specifically to a new facade, that's a discussion that the commission can have subsequent to all the structural conversations being completed, and we're just not there yet with those conversations. So just understanding how the process is going to play out here in terms of evaluating what the next steps are with the structure as the final evaluations of the structure are completed. We may be coming back to you at that point with anything we need at that point. Because we don't have those costs at this point, that work is still going to occur, and we will be having subsequent conversations as needed. After that, then we can talk about if you're adding a facade, if that's the direction the commission wants to go for that structure. So I just thought it would be helpful to have a little clarity on the process from here on out. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe, for answering that, clarifying how we're moving forward, because it's important, as we know, when we have a motion and just have comments regarding this motion and it becomes a discussion on a different subject, we don't like to leave it that way, but we appreciate the clarity of that, and then hopefully we'll have a follow-up discussion on that when the time comes. And now we move to item D, under general new business, a resolution to meet in closed session to review pending litigation in the matter of Colston versus City of Birmingham and Toroyan versus City of Birmingham pursuant to Section 8 of the Open Meeting Act. And also to discuss attorney-client communication pursuant to Section H of the Open Meeting Act. Before I give you the floor, Commissioner Sherman, I would like to hear from Mr. Courier. He might have to add something. Go ahead.
Just so the public knows, we have one item at least that we would like you to take action on tonight, so there might be some action after the closed session.
Did I hear you saying, I'm sorry, you were cut off, Mr. Courier. Did I hear you saying there's another item on the open agenda?
Usually we alert the public if we're going to be taking action after the closed session. There is one item that we would like you to take action on after the closed session.
Oh, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah. So there will be one item that will be taken action on.
Possibly two, that depends on, but certainly one, okay?
Okay, thank you. With that, Commissioner Sherman?
I will move the suggested resolution.
Second.
Will the clerk please call the roll?
Commissioner Sherman?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Long?
Yes.
Commissioner Baller?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoff?
Yes.
Commissioner Host?
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita?
Yes.
Mayor Boutros?
Yes. All right. Now, before we go to closed door, we like to finish the next item, which is removed from consent agenda, and we have none. Communications? None. Open to the public for matters not on the agenda. Any public comments? Something not on the agenda? I don't see any hands. Eric, we're good? All right. I see none. Is that Mr. Bloom?
Yes, it is.
Okay, Mr. Bloom, go ahead. The floor is yours. If you don't mind, speak louder. You're far from.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Okay, so I have two comments. The first is a question. Is there an opportunity to go back to the Maple Road reconstruction contract and try and find ways to renegotiate with the contractor for cost savings due to lower materials or economic downturn or anything like that. This project is over budget, and anything that we can do to try and save money for the taxpayers is something I think we should look at. So that was a question that I have. The second thing is I noticed that public comment in this meeting has been moved again to the back of the agenda. And I had thought that we were doing a trial period of having it at the front of the agenda. And I'd like to know what happened with that, please.
Mr. Bloom, I'd like to answer you on the public comment. As I mentioned in our first virtual meeting, probably, I'm not sure if you were zoomed in or you looked it over or you saw. But yes, the term of the trial phase had expired pretty much. It's suspended now. And then unfortunately, during this crisis now, we are doing virtual meeting, not personal meeting, and we have no public. So I think the best action we could do is bring it back to where it used to be originally. And this is what the normal business, how we used to do it. But we will be bringing it back to discussion when things go back to normal.
So you will review it again when we go back to normal?
We will bring it back as a process of bringing anything to the agenda. It will be an agenda item to discuss with the commissioner to make a decision on it.
Okay, I'm still not, I don't want to negotiate with you, but I'm still not understanding the necessity of moving it to the end of the agenda without a public discussion of the commissioners on it.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I think just for clarity purposes, the commission had authorized a 3-month.
Oh, your speaker.
Wait, go ahead.
In regard to the question with regard to the location of public comment, the commission had authorized a 3-month trial period for the relocation to the beginning of the agenda. That period had ended in April, so it had now reverted back to the prior location on the agenda. In addition to that, the question relative to the Maple Road contract, that contract has already been issued and let by the MDOT, and that is now a binding contract with MDOT and IAFRADI for the project. So the idea to renegotiate terms at this point, I think, is non-existent in as much as that contract, as it's been bid out, has been awarded. Thank you.
Any other comments, Mr. Bloom?
No, thank you. Have a nice evening and stay safe.
You too. All right. Now we have commissioner comments. Commissioner Hoff.
Well, some of you may remember that several years ago, the Foundation for Birmingham Senior Residents did a File of Life. The File of Life folder is a magnetic folder that people could stick on their refrigerator, and it provides an insert with historical information about their medical conditions, their medical history. So I recently had a call from Chief Wells with the fire department that in view of what is happening now with the COVID-19 virus, there is a need for this kind of information for people to have on their refrigerators, in particularly seniors. And so a reorder was placed, funded by the Foundation for Birmingham Senior Residents, and these will now be available for anyone who hasn't gotten one and needs one or wants one by contacting the fire department at their non-emergency number of 248-530-1900. Also, some will be available through the police department and the clerk's office. That's the File of Life medical history. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hoff.
Excellent.
Commissioner Host.
Well, I'd like to start with the ad hoc unimproved road committee, which is very critical. I know that, and Joe or Tiffany, correct me if I'm wrong, you've decided that the planning board is critical and they have been put on Zoom, as well as the BZA. And I assume you're going to fan this out as you feel things are critical. I want to piggyback on what Tiffany said in adjourning the April ad hoc unimproved road committee. This thing was urgent, let's just say last August, and I think the group has met twice since then. Maybe I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt, maybe in the fall, and then January, late January. And the joy, and I say this as a compliment, Joe, as far as I know, Lakeview was the only one that was critical on this whole thing. And thanks to you, they, in another couple of weeks, are going to get asphalt as well as concrete bids. And the reason I'm bringing up that committee is it is critical to everyone, but what Tiffany honed in on, and I think she's very right in saying, this is something that is very important to our public, to our citizens, to the people who live here. And as such, all they're thinking about is being safe and staying at home right now. I don't think this is an issue that we need to bring forward until we're comfortable that we're going to get public input that will sustain whatever would come out of that ad hoc committee. And that's my segue to the 2040 plan. There is no urgency for this thing to be completed. I don't even know what the date is that it's supposed to be completed. But I want to say that the planning board, bless them for taking it on, but they have been hit by the pandemic, and we didn't have the neighborhood meeting, and the neighborhood meetings are critical for the 2040 plan. The same way in tonight's discussion, we're going to be talking about ordinance changes, etc. The notion is I would like to see officially the city say that we're putting the 2040 plan a little bit on the back burner because our citizens don't have time to think about it. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just add, Mayor, that I think that was stated. These committees do have roles, but their roles involve significant public input into the processes that are going to drive them forward. And for that reason, they have been put on the back burner to some extent to get through this short-term period of requiring these virtual meetings. And so we can wait till the end of this month, see what the governor is planning to do in regards to allowing the public to re-engage. And at that time, we'll reassess where we're at in these processes so that we can ensure that the public is allowed to participate in these processes as much as they want to be before we move forward. So again, we'll know more in a couple of weeks in terms of how that's going to progress.
Well, when you do know, Joe, I hope you'll communicate it to the people.
Great. Any other commissioner comments? Commissioner Baller.
Yes, I have two comments. One first, very quickly, I think David Bloom's point was that typically when we do a trial of something and the trial ends, there's an evaluation of how the trial went, and the commission has asked whether they want to, continue with it or abandon it. And I think his question was, which is on the mind of several people, is it was abandoned, but it was never brought back to the commission with any report on whether it was successful or unsuccessful, and we were not asked whether we wanted to continue it or not. So I think that was his point, and I think it may have been missed. The second thing I want to say is that I was very gratified today to have participated in the deferral of lease payments for the tennis club, and to have spoken to the city manager about measures that the city may be taking soon to assist the business community and others in Birmingham with the, going forward in the COVID, post-COVID or post-lockdown. I have had the pleasure of speaking with numerous business owners and operators over the last couple weeks, and there are quite a few good suggestions coming from them, and I'm eager to see what the city proposes and what the administration proposes, and to begin a discussion, hopefully in relatively short order, about things that we can do as a city to assist in the recovery of the businesses in town. So those are my comments tonight.
All right, thank you, Commissioner Baller.
And we are looking at that. We'll be coming back with a proposed recommendation in regards to try to ways to soften the blow to our business community when everything's reintroduced post-COVID. I have staff looking at various opportunities to make that easier for everyone. However, we have to vet those through ordinance language, charter provisions, to ensure that some of these ideas can be implemented. We're going through that process now. As we get that finalized, we'll provide you with a recommendation, probably at your next meeting, for discussion purposes, that you can decide if that's a direction you want to go with various opportunities outlined for you. So you will have more on that in the coming weeks.
Any other commissioner comments? As I promised, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. As I promised to bring back to the commissioners and as suggested per our facilitator to do workshops, I'd like to set the first workshop in advance to our next commission meeting. I suggest that can be done at around 6:30, an hour before our next meeting in a couple weeks. The topics of discussion will be chosen by the mayor, which is me, as suggested for our facilitator. And I hope to see a great, healthy, and successful trial in that, and we'll see how it goes. But I'd like I said, as I promised, to bring it back to you guys and move forward. Unfortunately, things slowed us down because of this pandemic situation we're all facing together. With that, before we go and recess, we have, I will finish with ask each one of the people that watching us tonight, if they're tuned in. I ask again, each and every one of you, to be responsible and compassionate in your actions over the next several weeks. It's really important. This is difficult on everyone, as it is. But we do not have to let this define us. Working together, our great community will rebound even sooner. I thank you for tuning in if you're listening. And please stay safe, as I usually say. Stay healthy. With that, we'll move to our advisory boards, committees, commissions, reports, and agendas. Legislation, city staff. And now we recess for purpose of the closed session. And we'll be back. If are we in closed session? Okay, why don't we take 2
People
minutes?
are starting to the closed session if they were assigned to it.
All right, awesome. Here we go. All right, we're all back. I see more than 4 commissioners. I don't need to see all of you, but just kidding. We're back, and now I need after coming back from closed session, we have an item that needed action on, and Mr. Courier, you'd like to say something before I entertain a motion?
Yes, what I'd like to do, I think the city clerk's looking for something. Oh, she's talking to somebody else. Okay. What direction we
I was
need?
making sure that closed captions were on. We're good.
Okay. What we need from the commission is approval to execute the settlement agreement and easement agreement with respect to the Troyan lawsuit and giving the mayor the authority to sign both. This is to create a temporary easement on a piece of property on Lawndale. It'll be eliminated by the early 2021 January is our target date for that. And the property belongs to the city. It's just an easement for a driveway. And it settles the lawsuit.
So moved.
Do we have a motion, please, for that?
So moved.
All right, Alex, are we clear on the motion that Mr. Courier had read?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. We have a
Yes.
motion by Commissioner Sherman, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Hoff. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Long,
Yes.
Commissioner Baller,
Yes.
Commissioner Hoff,
Yes.
Commissioner Host,
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita,
Yes.
Commissioner Nikita,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherman,
Yes.
Mayor Boutros.
Yes.
Okay.
With that, we conduct our business and we're done for the evening, and I'd like to adjourn.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Good night, everybody. Stay safe.
Night.
Night, everybody.
Good night.
All right.
Sorry, guys.